Hello everyone there. This is Abayomi Akinlabi, and I'm here to review the February-March 2024 IGCSE Cambridge Paper 2 that's extended. All right. The total number of questions is usually 40, and each candidate has 45 minutes to complete the questions. Now, for question 1, which characteristic of living organisms is represented by gas exchange in the alveoli? They are option A, excretion, option B, growth, option C, nutrition, and option D, reproduction. Now for this question, gas exchange can either be in form of respiration, can also be a form of excretion. Since there's no respiration in these options here, the likely answer there will be excretion. That's option A. Now for question 2, the diagram shows how Homo sapien, that modern people, would have evolved from earlier ancestors. We have Homo sapiens, Homo heidelbergensis, Homo erectus, Homo habilis. This statement about modern people and their ancestors is correct. Now we have option A, they are the same species and the same genus. Option B, they are the same species but not the same genus. Option C, they are the same genus but not the same species. And option D, they are neither the same species nor the same genus. And from our knowledge of classification, we know that for binomial nomenclature, the two names that are given for organisms are the generic name, which is this, and the specific name, which is the other one, genus and species. If we look at the names we have here, they all have the same generic name, that's genus. And the answer there will be option C. They are the same genus but not the same species. For question 3, what is the characteristics of both insects and arachnids? We know that insects and arachnids, they belong to a major phylum of arthropoda or arthropods. Other classes under arthropods are myriapods and crustaceans. For students, I always give them an acronym for this. You can use MICA for you to recall. MICA, M-I-C-A. M stands for myriapod, I for insects, C for crustaceans, and A for arachnids. And for all arthropods, they have some characteristics in common, like they have exoskeleton, they have segmented body, they have jointed legs, right? Out of those characteristics I've mentioned, the one that is found here in the options here is the all have exoskeleton. That's option B. 8 legs is only found in arachnids. Only 3 pairs of legs is for insects, and wings is found in insects as well. Some insect though. Question 4. An animal can swim, has a backbone, and produces milk. Which group does this animal belong to? There's one distinguishing feature that we can find there that's only peculiar to a particular group of animals, and that is production of milk, and that can only be found among mammals. It's only mammals that can produce milk. I mean, for these options here, the answer there will be option C, and that is mammals. For question 5, In which cell structure does aerobic respiration occur? Now, for respiration, cellular respiration, basically, we have two locations for respiration in the cell. We have the cytoplasm and we have the mitochondria, or mitochondria, as the case may be. Mitochondria is singular, mitochondria is plural. Now, for cytoplasm, that is where anaerobic respiration occurs, while the mitochondrion is where we have the aerobic respiration. That's why mitochondrion is sometimes referred to as the powerhouse of the cell, because that is where energy is produced from aerobic respiration. I mean, the answer for question 5 is option A, mitochondria. Question 6, which formula shows the correct way to calculate the actual size of an object? For this, the formula, have at the back of your mind that the formula for magnification is equal to image size divided by actual size. And from that formula, you want to find the formula for actual size. If you cross multiply, actual size will now be image size divided by magnification. I mean, the answer there is option B for question 6. For question 7, what is the reason why oxygen diffuses into the blood from an alveolus in the lungs? The key word there is diffuses or diffusion. And diffusion is the movement of molecules from a region of high concentration to a region of low concentration. That means there must be concentration gradient for diffusion to occur, and must move from high concentration to low concentration. All right. And if you look at the option there, the likely answer there will be option B, which is the oxygen concentration in the alveolus is greater than the oxygen concentration in the blood. That's why it can move from the alveolus to the blood. Question 8. The diagram shows two plant cells. Two plant cells. We have cell X, high water potential, cell Y, low water potential. All right. Which statement describes what will happen to the water in these cells? Now, that question is trying to test your knowledge of osmosis. And osmosis can be defined in two ways. You can define osmosis as the movement of water molecules from a region of high water potential to a region of low water potential through a partially permeable membrane, or can be defined as the movement of water molecules from a region of low concentration of solute to a region of high concentration of solute through a partially permeable membrane. And for that question, the answer there will be net movement from cell X to cell Y, because cell X has high water potential, while cell Y has low water potential. For question 9, which road describes active transport? Now, we have two types of transport. Transport can be divided into two parts. We have active transport, we have passive transport. For active transport is one that goes against concentration gradients and also makes use of energy from respiration. While for passive transport, it goes in line with concentration gradients and energy is not required for that. Examples of passive transport are osmosis and diffusion. Right, for this question, because we are talking about active transport, all right, move substances from a low to high concentration, that is correct. It's from low to high, not from high to low, like in the case of diffusion. Requires energy, that is correct. Yes. Requires a protein carrier, that's also correct. Protein carrier also is required for active transport to occur, like movement of large molecules in the villi okay, is an example of active transport. Question 10, which row shows the element that make up a carbohydrate molecule? Now, for biological molecules, carbohydrates made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Fat is made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen also. While protein is made up of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogens, and sometimes sulfur. Because we are looking at carbohydrates here, the answer there will be option C. Carbon, yes, is present. Hydrogen, yes, is present. Nitrogen is not found in carbohydrates, it's only found in protein. And oxygen also is present. Question 11. Large molecules are made from smaller molecules. Which row names the large molecules and the small molecules it is made from? And large molecules that we have there, we have option A, cellulose, option B, fat, option C, glycogen, and option D, starch. Right, cellulose is an example of carbohydrates. Starch is an example of carbohydrates. And the small molecules that are found in carbohydrates is glucose. For fat, the small molecules that are found in fat are fatty acid and glycerol, fat or oil. And glycogen also is an example of carbohydrates. And glycogen also, the small molecule that we will find in glycogen must also be glucose. All right. And the one that actually matches together in all the options is option A, which is cellulose, and the small molecule is glycogen, is glucose, I mean. Question 12. The graph shows the effect of temperature on the activity of an enzyme. Which statement about the enzyme and the substrate at temperature 1 and 2 are correct? Now, for an enzyme to be able to function or break down substrates, that substrate must be able to fit into the active site of the enzyme. But when temperature gets too high, the enzyme gets denatured, and when the enzyme gets denatured, the shape of the active site will be distorted, and that will make it difficult for substrate to fit into the active site. Because of that, for that question, the correct answer there is option D. The substance fit into the active site at stage 1 because that is when the enzyme starts acting. You can see there's a gradual progression from the graph. You can see it as it's increasing here. But as it gets to the peak here, optimal temperature above that means that the enzyme will be denatured and it starts decreasing until it becomes completely denatured there. All right. That's option D for question 12. Question 13. In an investigation, the rate of photosynthesis in a plant is measured at different temperatures. The investigation is carried out at 3 different light intensities. The result as shown. What is the limiting factor for the rate of photosynthesis at point X? If you check very well, temperature cannot be a limiting factor because it is actually increasing, it's affecting it. The limiting factor there at point X will be light intensity, because you can see the light intensity is actually being varied. We have the one that's low, we have the medium, you have the high. Okay, that is actually a limiting factor at point X. That's why the answer for question 13 is option C. Question 14, in plants, which ions are used to make amino acids? All right, we have different ions in that plants use. We have magnesium for chlorophyll production. We have nitrates, is for growth in plant. And for a plant to grow, means that protein must be produced, and the smallest unit of protein are the amino acids. That means the right answer for that question, the answer is option B for question 14. For question 15, the diagram shows a cross-section of part of a leaf. Which structure is the cuticle? In the leaf structure, We have the topmost layer here is the cuticle, followed by the upper epidermis, followed by the palisade mesophyll, followed by the spongy mesophyll. And in between the spongy mesophyll, you have the vascular bundles, the veins, the xylem and phloem here. And after that, we have the lower epidermis. And we have here the stoma, that's singular for stomata. And surrounding the stoma are the guard cells. That means for question 15, the answer there is option A. That's why you have the cuticle. Question 16. Poor nutrition can lead to a condition called rickets, in which bones fail to develop properly. The table shows some minerals and vitamins present in 4 foods. Which food will be best for a child who has rickets? That means for a child that has rickets, that child needs a stronger bone, and the minerals that gives strong bone is calcium, while the vitamins that give strong bone is vitamin D. That's why the answer for question 16 is option B. Question 17. Which food group is chemically digested in the mouth, passes through the stomach, and continues to be broken down by chemical digestion in the small intestine? All right. For carbohydrates, it can be broken down in the mouth as well as the duodenum. For protein, it's broken down in the stomach alone, and some part also is broken down in this duodenum, some part. All right. Minerals, they are not broken down. They are taken into the body the way they are actually absorbed. Same with vitamins. That means the answer for that question is option A, which is carbohydrate for question 17. Question 18. Which rule about bowel is correct? Which rule about bowel is correct? Organ where bowel is produced. Bowel is a chemical substance that helps in emulsification of fat. Emulsification simply means physical breakdown of fat globules into smaller globules to increase the surface area for effective digestion of fats. Okay? But bile is produced in the liver and stored in the gallbladder. I'll repeat that again. Bile is produced in the liver and stored in the gallbladder. That means the organ where it's produced is the liver, and where it's stored is the gallbladder, and helps in increasing the surface area, and it is used in physical digestion because there is no change in the component of the fat that is broken down. It only breaks down the fat to the smaller globules. It doesn't convert the fat to fatty acid. That's why it's a physical digestion. That's why the answer is option D for question 18. Question 19. The small intestine is where most digested foods are absorbed. The small intestine has many villi. These are some features of villi. We have each villus contains a network of capillaries. Each villus contains a lacteal. The surface of each epithelial cell is covered with microvilli. Villi increase the internal surface area of the small intestine. Which statement about the villi are important for the efficient absorption of glucose? Now, in the villi, from the descriptions, there are 3 main parts of the villi. We have the lacteal that helps in absorption of fatty acids and glycerol. We have the blood capillaries that absorb glucose and amino acids. We have the epithelial cell that has microvilli that increases the surface area of a villus. All right. All right, I mean, the one that actually helps in efficient absorption of glucose will be the one that deals with blood capillaries, and also the one that deals with increasing the surface area. That's why the answer there will be option B, which is made up of 1, 3, and 4. 1, each villus contains a network of capillaries. 3, surface of each epithelial cell is covered with microvilli to increase surface area. And 4, villi increase the internal surface area of small intestine. Now, question 20. Which statement about xylem vessels are correct? Xylem vessels have cells with cross walls. Xylem vessels have thick walls with lignin. Xylem vessels transport water and minerals. Okay, the answer there will be option C. That means xylem vessels have thick wall and lignin. Because apart from transport of water and minerals, xylem also helps in support in plants. That's why it has lignin and thick walls, and also helps in transporting water and minerals, like I said before. That's option C for question 20. 21. Doda is a plant that grows on other plants called hosts. The Doda plant connects to the host vascular bundles. The Doda plant does not have green leaves or roots. What correctly describes the region of translocation? Translocation simply means transport of manufactured food in plants. Because Doda plants do not have well-defined vascular bundles, all right? It will be able to manufacture a food itself, and also the food has to be transported around. That means the host plant will now be the source of food for Doda plants, while the Doda plant itself will now be the sink. Sink is where the food is going to. Source is where the food is manufactured from. That's why the answer is option C for 21. For 22, the diagram shows part of the human circulatory system. Which structure is the hepatic vein? All right. Anytime you hear there's some words in biology, when you hear the word, you know the organ is referring to. If you hear pulmonary, it refers to the lungs. If you hear about cardiac, that's the heart. If you hear about renal, that's the kidney. Hepatic deals with the liver. That means that vessel is actually from the liver. All right, now, veins take blood away from the organ. Arteries take blood to the organ that is actually referring to. And also, there's also another vessel that takes blood to the liver called the hepatic portal vein that connect the small intestine to the liver. All right. But the one that takes blood away from the liver is the hepatic vein, and that is option D for question 22. For question 23, that means before I leave that means B will be hepatic portal vein, and A will be hepatic artery, and C will be renal vein. Question 23, what is the feature of passive immunity? Now, we have two types of immunity, passive and active. Active immunity is the immunity that's generated from the body by virtue of the fact that whether pathogens have been introduced into the body or vaccines have been introduced to the body, that will bring about immunity that the body will produce itself. That's active immunity. For passive immunity, it's one that is derived from other sources. The immunity is getting from other sources, like a woman breastfeeding a baby, and the immunity is passed from the breast milk to the baby. That is passive immunity. Okay. And also when someone gets the immunity from outside, is also passive. And from the option that we have there, the answer there will be option A, which is antibodies are acquired from another individual. That is passive. For 24, the graph shows the change in the rate of breathing of an athlete. What causes the response during the time period Y? That means from here to here. Why is there an increase in the rate of breathing of the athletes? And the reason for that is because in the course of aerobic respiration, all right, there will be production of carbon dioxide, which will accumulate in the blood, and there's need for the body to produce more oxygen and energy, to take in more oxygen and energy, to be able to produce enough energy to sustain the athletes. That's why there's a gradual or a sharp increase in the rate of breathing in order to be able to sustain the athletes to get enough energy. The answer for that question is option C for 24. 25. These are processes that occur in plants. We have active transport, cell division, osmosis, and transpiration. Which processes use energy from respiration? All right. We have active transport uses energy for respiration. Cell division also uses energy from respiration. Osmosis is passive transport, doesn't require energy. Transpiration also does not require energy because it makes use of transpiration pool. I mean, the answer for that question is option A, which is 1 and 2. For 26, what is the balanced equation for anaerobic respiration in yeast? All right, for your IGCSE syllabus, you're supposed to learn about the word equation and the chemical equation, balanced chemical equation for aerobic respiration. You're meant to know the word equation and the balanced chemical equation for anaerobic respiration in yeast, and you're meant to know only the word equation for anaerobic respiration in muscle. All right, because this question is asking about the balanced equation for anaerobic respiration in yeast, which is respiration without oxygen to produce glucose, we give ethanol or alcohol and carbon dioxide. And the answer is option B for that one. C6H12O6 is glucose. C2H5OH is ethanol or alcohol, and CO2 is carbon dioxide. 27. Which labeled organ has a major role in the assimilation of amino acids by converting them to protein? All right. For that question, the answer there is option A. Liver helps in deamination. All right. When there's excess amino acid in our body, liver will deaminate and convert it to urea. And also sometimes the amino acid also can convert it to protein for storage. That is option A for question 27. For 28, a toxin that is the same shape as a neurotransmitter prevents muscle contraction. Which statement explains why the toxin prevents muscle contraction? All right. Because it has the same shape as the neurotransmitters, it means that receptor cells, receptor neurons at the other end, the postsynaptic neuron will not be able to receive neurotransmitters, and that will reduce transmission of impulses. All right, and that will make it impossible or reduce the effect of muscle contraction because of the presence of the toxins. All right, and the answer for that question is option A for 28. The toxin blocks the binding of neurotransmitters to receptors or motor neurons, and that will make it impossible for impulse to be transported to the next neuron. 29. The diagram shows the structure of the human eye. Which labeled part refracts light entering the eye? All right. The part of the eye that refracts light is the cornea. Right. Cornea helps in refraction of light, and the part of the eye that is labeled as the cornea is option D. It is cornea. C is the pupil. B is the iris, and A is the blind spot that connects to the optic nerve. Question 30. A patient is injected with adrenaline. Adrenaline is referred to as emergency hormone. And there are some changes that happens when your body produces adrenaline. We have heartbeat increases, breathing rate increases, glucose level increases. The pupil will dilate. There will be agitation of the muscles. all right, because at that point in time, referred to as the hormone is referred to as the fight or flight hormone, right? You are actually agitated, you want to actually fight or run away, all right? That's why all those changes actually occur. And from the graphs that we have in the options here, the one that's actually correct for the presence of adrenaline in the body is option C. Pulse rate simply means heartbeat increases. You can see from there, increase in the heartbeat, and glucose level also increases from the, and you can see the key here. The dotted lines, the broken lines represent the pulse rate, and the glucose level is the one that is unbroken, line that is unbroken. 31. A diagram shows the shoot and the root of a seedling responding to gravity. Response to gravity is referred to as gravitropism or geotropism, okay? And auxin controls or regulates that. Right. Now the question, which row shows where the auxin accumulates and the effects of this in the shoot? For that question, the answer, the auxin will accumulate at the lower section, lower part of the shoot of the plant. All right. And because it's accumulated at the lower part of the shoot of the plant, that part of the plant we experience more cell division and more cell elongation, and that will turn the shoot to move, to go upward. I mean, the shoot is going against gravity. That means the shoot is negatively gravitropic, while the root is positively gravitropic. That means the answer for that question, 31, is option B. The lower surface and promotes cell elongation. For 32, which factors would increase the chance of antibiotic resistance developing? All right. Resistance of the body against antibiotics can be due to some factors like overuse of antibiotics. It can be due to incomplete dosage of antibiotics and other factors like that. Now, from the option that we have there, the answer there will be option B, which are regularly giving antibiotics to healthy livestock. Someone that is healthy or a livestock that is healthy and is giving antibiotics, it will make the body to be resistant to that antibiotics. And option for number 3, using several different antibiotics to treat an infection. That is like an abuse of antibiotics. That can also lead to antibiotic resistance. That's option B. For 33, what is an advantage of using asexual reproduction in crop plants? Number 1, asexual reproduction is faster. It requires just one organism. All right. And other factors like that. From those options there, the answer there will be option A. It can reliably produce many crop plants within a desirable characteristics. That means it's actually very fast. Many crop plants can be produced with the desired characteristics that the person requires. For 33 is option A. 34. The graph shows the concentration in the blood of 4 hormones involved in controlling the menstrual cycle. Which line represents FSH, that's follicle stimulating hormone? The 4 hormones that control the menstrual cycle in the female are the follicle stimulating hormone FSH, the luteinizing hormone LH, estrogen, and progesterone. All right. Now, during ovulation, that is when the egg cells, the ovum or the egg cell is released from the ovary. The level of LH has to peak because it's the one that actually triggers, ensures that the egg cell is released from the ovary. That's why for this graph, this A, and they actually work in pairs. LH and FSH work together. Estrogen and progesterone work together. All right. A is LH, B is FSH, and C is estrogen, and D is progesterone. That means the answer here is option B for 34. 35, the mitotic index of a tissue is the percentage of cells in the tissue that are dividing by mitosis. The table shows information about two tissue samples, X and Y. That the percentage of cells that are dividing in the body, in a tissue. Now we have number of cells dividing by mitosis. At X is 25. Number of cells not divided by mitosis, that's 55 for X. Total number of cells in the tissue in this tissue sample is 80. For Y, we have 15, we have 95, and we have 110. Now, which statement is correct? Well, let's look at the mitotic index for X and Y. For X, mitotic index for X will be 25. That is the number of cells divided by total number of cells, that is 80, multiplied by 100 over 1. And that will give us 31.3%. That will be the mitotic index for tissue X. While the mitotic index for tissue Y will be 15 divided by the total number of cells, that is 110, times 100 over 1, and that would be 13.6%. That's for tissue Y. Now then, let's look at the option here. Now, tissue X is growing fastest with the mitotic index of 31.3%. That is actually the correct answer because it has the higher the mitotic index, the faster the rate of growth of the tissue. Now for 36, fruit flies can either have red eyes or white eyes. This is a sex-linked characteristic with the gene for eye color located on the X chromosome. The allele for red eyes is capital R, is dominant over the allele for white eyes, which is small letter r. A fruit fly with the genotype X capital R, X small r was crossed with a fruit fly with genotype X capital R, Y. Which percentage of the offspring we have red eyes? We can quickly use Punnett square for this quickly. So I can quickly get the answer. Now for paper 2, you have to work on your time management because you have 40 questions to answer in 45 minutes. And you have to also work on your accuracy. I will advise that you quickly answer the question that you know and go back to the ones that you are not too sure. And you have enough time to look at them very well. Now for this one, we have capital R. We have small r. I try to use only the alleles. We also have capital R here, and Y does not carry anything at all. All right, that means Y here. Now, because of this, we have to include the chromosome here. We have to include the chromosome. That is easier for us to cross. We have X here. We also have X here. For the first one, it will be X capital R, X capital R. We are crossing this and this. For this one, it will be X capital R and X small r. For this, it will be X capital R and Y. While the last one will be X small r and Y. Now, which percentage of the offspring we have red eyes? Okay, this we have red eyes. Remember, red eye is dominant. This also we have red eye. That is 2. This also we have red eye. That is 3. That means 3 out of 4 of them, we have red eye. And if you do that term of percentage, it will be 3/4 times 100/1 times 100. And that will give us 75%. That's option C, option 36. 37, which statement about variation is correct? All right. And from the option that the ABO blood groups show continuous variation, that's not correct. Blood group is discontinuous. Body mass shows continuous variation, that is not correct. So body mass is continuous because you can actually have range of values for body mass. Seed color in P shows continuous variation. Seed color is discontinuous because you don't have values to represent that. And the last one, seed shape in P shows discontinuous variation. That's absolutely correct. Okay. Seed shape will show discontinuous variation. That the answer for question 37 is option D. For 38, which row shows part of the nitrogen cycle? All right. Name of process, chemical changed, chemical produced. All right. For the match, the options there, the one that actually match all the points is option D. That is nitrification. In nitrification, the chemical that is changed is ammonium compounds or ammonium ions that will be changed to nitric ions. That's nitrification. Right, the other ones are wrong. For nitrogen fixation is nitrogen gas to nitric ions. It has been altered in that part, and other ones like that. For 39, when in vitro fertilization as IVF is used in captive breeding programs, these processes occur. The egg cell is fertilized, the egg cell is removed from an ovary, the embryo is implanted into the uterus, the sperm cells are added. In which order do these processes occur? All right. The first order will be, the first one that will happen there will be the egg cell is removed from the ovary. All right. And after that, sperm cells are added to the egg cell that's been removed. After that, the egg cell is fertilized. And after that, the embryo is implanted into the uterus. And that is 2, 4, 1, and 3. That means the answer there is option B. And the last question here is question 40. The diagram shows a bacterial cell. Which cell structure is useful in genetic modification? And that cell structure that is useful in bacterial cell is the plasmid or the circular DNA. And the plasmid here is option D. All right. And that's all about the review of February-March 2024 IGCSE Biology Paper 2. I hope this will be useful for you to prepare for the IGCSE for Paper 2. Thank you very much for listening, and all the best in your exam.